Hey guys, welcome to Beyond the Pit. Today I'm stoked to be sitting down with Phil Vibez. You know him from Irate or Knights of the Black. He's in many projects, and I'm really stoked to have you here. How are you doing, Phil?
Happy to be here, Dom, and good evening, everyone out there in the world. Yeah, stoked to be on. Lots going on with me, and just overall, just very happy. Lots of positive, cool things going on.
Definitely, yeah. So Phil, I know you started out as a metalhead kid from the
Yeah,
Bronx who got introduced to the hardcore scene pretty young. Back in '95, you and some of your fellow friends formed Irate, right?
that's correct.
What sparked that? Can you like paint a picture of how you first got into music and what made you decide to start a band?
Well, music is pretty rich in my life since I was a young child. My mom introduced everything from 80s pop to salsa music to merengue. And of course, being a resident of the Bronx at the time, you know, you're like rich with music all around you. So like, I got exposed to hip hop or early hip hop, and just so many forms of music. Like I just took that all in. And then the metal stuff kind of came to me when I was in junior high school, and discovered Guns N' Roses just by kind of accident on the radio, and just was like, I'd never like heard anything so rich with guitar work and just this like great melodic singing, like visceral melodic singing. Like just Axl Rose was just a bad motherfucker back in those days, and his voice kind of like grabbed me immediately, and so did the band. And then, from Guns N' Roses graduated to like heavier stuff, or not even right away, but like I discovered Motley Crue and Skid Row and all those hair bands or hard rock bands of that era. But then kind of graduated to the heavier stuff once I discovered Metallica was a rap.
Yeah,
That was like instant love and just an appreciation for heavier, more bone crushing music. And once you discover them, you're hungry for heavier and heavier and heavier. And so I just kept looking for things, would listen to the advice of my friends who were into heavier stuff. That's where Slayer and all the other thrash bands came into play.
yep,
And then a few years after that, getting into hardcore, just a different form of aggressive music. Starting off with like Biohazard and Madball and,
yeah,
all those bands of that era, and just taking it from there.
definitely, yeah. Biohazard, one of my favorites probably. I love Biohazard and especially that like rap mix. It kind of ties in with that.
Yeah.
So if you
It,
kind of grew up on the rap, it's kind of a great band to get
it
into
was a
hardcore with.
great coming together of different genres. And I think it did a lot for both scenes.
Definitely.
Like rap kids were exposed to like heavier rock music or hardcore, whatever you want to call it. Because you had Aerosmith going back many more years, doing it with Run DMC. You had
Yeah.
Public Enemy and Anthrax, and then you had Biohazard and Onyx. So like it was already happening,
Yeah,
and I think both genres benefited from the mashups of the two genres.
Yeah, I remember there being this compilation album and it had like it was like more newer, but it had I think System of a Down and I think Wu-Tang. It had Sick of It All and Mobb Deep and a bunch of other
Yeah, I
bands.
think you're referring to the Judgment Night soundtrack,
Maybe, hold on.
and that was a lot of like Cypress Hill.
Oh yeah,
Slayer
yeah,
was
yeah.
involved, Ice-T, you
Slayer and
had
Ice-T.
No More. Um, Actually, I'm referring to the Judgment Night, but I don't know. System wasn't out yet when that came out. I was like late '90s,
I
mid
think
to late '90s, and that was an important record too
yeah.
for those genres because it was all mashups,
Yeah,
and that was pretty cool, man. Like Booyah Tribe and Faith No More, like Slayer and Ice-T, like so many cool bands just doing it, and not being afraid to do it, not being afraid of a backlash that because hardcore fans will be like, no, this isn't cool. You shouldn't do this. But they weren't afraid to push that envelope. And, we're the beneficiaries of that because that was pretty damn cool.
Yeah, I've actually never seen Judgment Night, and everyone tells me to watch it.
Yeah, it's worth a watch. Definitely. It was a cool movie of
Yeah,
some guys just going out on the town and taking a wrong turn somewhere and getting into all kinds of shit all night long.
yeah.
I won't give it away. I won't spoil it, but it's definitely worth a watch for sure.
Actually, speaking on movies, you're clearly obviously into horror movies because your background, but what's actually, I don't know if you'd be able to pick, but what's your all-time favorite horror movie and why does it stand out to you?
Well, that is difficult because I tend to split the genre into the subgenres like slashers and
Yeah,
paranormal films and demonic films and all that. But just to for the sake of this, I'm going to say that Texas Chainsaw Massacre is my favorite. The original 1974
yeah,
classic is definitely my favorite slasher of all time. Definitely. And I'm a slasher guy, even though I love all forms of horror, but slashers are always going to be number one to me. So if I'm going to go with slashers, then, I definitely have to go with Texas Chainsaw. I
yeah.
got to meet the original Leatherface and have breakfast with him one time. My
Oh,
family and
sick.
I at a convention because I'm a big horror convention goer, and all these things back there are like 95% signed by all the individuals that
Yeah.
played these characters. So like, I've been spending years going to meet my heroes and getting a bunch of memorabilia signed. This is just a portion of my collection behind me.
Dang.
But yeah, man, that's just like my bag outside of music and working and things like that. So yeah, very cool stuff.
Actually, have you ever been to Rock and Shock over here?
So and right, I was gonna say in the Boston area, no, I have not, but I know they stopped doing them a few years ago,
Yeah,
right?
my
I was supposed to go because I'm a big Adam Green fan, and Adam Green is from the Boston area. He's the one that directed and wrote Hatchet, the Hatchet
Hatchet.
franchise.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think my dad knows someone who was involved on Hatchet. I forgot what he did. Um, Hatchet. I remember that movie. I haven't seen that in like 5 years.
Yeah, dude, you got to see all four of them. There are
Yeah,
like
I've
four
only
of them,
seen the
and they're and
first.
they're all fantastic. So, Adam McGreen is a big influence on me, and I actually flew to Cal. I met a bunch of times, but I flew to California and spent some time with him at his studio, and he showed me how he made those films, and that was one of the coolest things my wife and I ever did. Was go out there and meet up with Adam. So, props to him, and Boston's greatest horror guy for sure.
Yeah. They, I don't want to say replaced, but after my aunt, she was kind of, well, not my blood aunt, but I call her my aunt, and I've known her for like my whole life. She was like really involved on Rock and Shock. She ran it with someone else, and after that, they kind of did this thing. It was like, Ice Nine Kills, the band.
Yeah, of course.
They had like this Ice Nine Kills festival. I went last year. It was actually really cool.
I
It
heard
felt like
about
Rock
that.
and
Yeah.
Shock. Yeah.
Did they hold it in the Boston area?
They held it in the same place they used to hold Rock and Shock.
Oh,
They
okay.
actually hold it at DCU. That's probably why it felt like Rock and Shock so much.
So it was kind of the same format where they had
Yeah.
bands play and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
guests, horror guests.
The day before the day before the convention, they had this festival going. But it's like always Ice Nine Kills is playing because it's the Ice Nine Kills convention thing. But I mean, still, it's sick, and they have great stage production, actually.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
saw them open for Metallica.
Oh, crap. Did you go to the
Actually, I'm going to see them this. I think they're still on the package, but I think it's I'm going Friday to Philly, and I'm going to catch I think it's Limp Bizkit and Night uh
Suicidal, right?
no, Suicidal and Pantera are the Sunday. Friday is Ice
Oh,
Nine Kills and Limp Bizkit.
oh, okay. Oh yeah, Ice Nine
Because they
Kills
do a
is
weekend, and each like
yeah, yeah,
Friday
yeah,
is
yeah.
two sets, and then the other two bands on Sunday.
That's pretty cool. I wanted to ask, actually, speaking of horror movies, what's probably your favorite horror movie director?
That's harder.
Yeah.
There are just so many that I love, but I'm going to keep it old school for the sake of this, and I'm going to say um, John Carpenter.
Yeah.
Because Halloween's one of the greatest franchises ever. He also did The Thing. He did The Fog. Like he couldn't miss in the '80s. So as far as consistency, John Carpenter is definitely out there. But I'm gonna put Adam Green up there. I'm gonna put Rob Zombie up there. There's so many that I truly love and enjoy. But I'm gonna go with John.
Yeah. Horror is like so kind of combined with the metal and hardcore scene. It's crazy. Like
Yeah.
Rob Zombie, you guys did a music video for Knights of the Black not too long ago. That kind of had horror vibes about it. How
Oh, it
was
was totally
it?
horror. It
Yeah.
was it was about Halloween.
Yeah.
Um, kind of like a nod to the franchise, but also that at the time, the newest trilogy or the last trilogy that they did, and just his Michael Myers um, endless mission to get Laurie Strode and kill
Yeah.
her. But and there's more Knights of the Black coming. We just shot our first video in Philadelphia about a month and a half ago. Sorry. And we're really excited because life kind of got in the way since the first single, and there were a lot of delays with what we were doing. And just when I thought we, were in the right path, things would just come up and kind of delay it further. But I'm happy to report that the first EP is done. We're doing two, so one will come out soon, and the other one will come out a year after the first. And it's probably and I hate to say the best work I ever did because I don't like comparing my
Mhm.
bands, but it's something I'm really proud of. And my son's in that band, and Nando from Irate is in that band,
Yeah.
and my buddy Tom, who was in the Judas Syndrome with me, is in that band. So it's just like I'm so rich with ridiculous musicianship that I this was the most challenging record of my life because I was up to task. These guys wrote some ridiculous riffs, and I had to match that intensity. And I think the first single that you just referred to, Black Harvest, the Horror of Haddonfield,
Yeah.
is really super intense. And I just had to match that, so it's a whole record of that kind of energy. But the video that's going to come out in the next couple of months is called Vigilante, and
Mm.
that was my nod to the '80s films Death Wish. There were about five of those movies, and I was a really big fan. And so I'm excited to have that. There's all kinds of blood and gore in the video, so just a really exciting time. And I'm happy that Knights of the Black is finally going to legitimately be out in the ethos for people to check out and enjoy.
Yeah, from what I've heard, like your first single, actually that released on Halloween of 2020, right?
Right. Yep. The same day I got married to
Oh,
my
that's
wife in Coney
awesome.
Island, in Brooklyn, New York. We had the whole park to ourselves because there was COVID going on. So
Yeah.
nobody was out there, and we pulled up to the boardwalk there and had a really cool ceremony. Just us and about 20 or 25 of our closest people.
Yeah, that's really
It was a
cool.
big day. It was a big day. We released music and I got married that day, so I'll never forget that day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty awesome.
Thank
H- How was it during COVID, like working with music? Do you think it was harder or do you think it didn't really make a difference too
you.
much?
I mean, getting together and recording was an issue for a while, because just to be safe,
Yeah.
you didn't want to expose anyone to getting sick. You didn't want to get exposed to getting sick, so it took a while. Which is why we just released the one thing at that point, and then COVID kept going, and just life stuff too got in the way for a few years. But everything's good now, man, and we're on all four cylinders. And this is going to be one of the proudest moments of my musical career for sure.
Yeah. You've been part of the New York like heavy scene for over 2 decades now. How do you feel like the hardcore scene's changed, and do you like it better now or like how it was before?
Well, I think it's definitely evolved and bands are doing new and cool things and there's no knock to it. I'm not one of these old men that are like,
Yeah,
"Oh, I can't stand this because this is not the way we did it." No, man, I love the evolution. There are so many kick-ass bands out now. I'm not gonna like every single band that comes out, but like I'm not one to like, even if I don't like a band, I'm not gonna fucking shit on them.
yeah,
I'm gonna
exactly.
wish them well and I'm gonna, hope for everyone's success, because the worst thing in the world is people just hating on things and we have plenty of that negativity in the ethos right now and in the
Yeah,
internet and all that, social media and all that. So I don't want to add to that. I just want to support music in general. And I will say that I am very pleased with, where all forms of music are going. Everything's evolving. Even new metal came back,
new metal,
like
yeah,
with a lot of death metal influence in it. A lot of those singers now use a lot of guttural vocals. So it's kind of cool to see how our bands influence this new generation
yeah.
and they're trying all kinds of experimental things. Now, if you want me to name drop a few of my favorites, I'm gonna put at number one to that list is Peeling Flesh. I
I
like
bro
those dudes. I met them recently, and I came to find out that they were big Irate fans. So they, treated me so amazingly well, and it was a real pleasure to get to know those guys. And I wish them so much success. They're really blowing up, doing their thing.
Yeah,
Frozen Soul's another great band. I met Chad a
for
few years
sure.
back, and he's also and I am influenced by Irate. So it's kind of cool to just see, you know, to hear that people listen to us still
Yeah.
and are influenced by us and carry that into their own sound. So there's Knock Loose is doing their thing and getting bigger and bigger. Kubla Khan, like so many
Mhm.
I can name right now that are doing their thing and are succeeding and just taking it to new levels. And I'm just happy to see all of that.
Two things I actually want to say. Last time I saw Peeling Flesh, I broke my nose in the pit. And also,
Yeah.
this is from I don't know if you could see it. That's from New England Metal Hardcore Fest. They sounded sick.
Oh, they always sound amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely see. I always see clips of them just destroying places,
Yeah.
and it's fun to watch, man. I always send Montiel or Michael or Jason, little messages here and there. I'm like, dudes, you guys are fucking it up. Like, keep it going, and they're always very responsive and awesome. So, super
Yeah.
props to them.
They're awesome dudes.
Yeah,
I've only really talked to them once, and that was at New England Metal Hardcore. But from what I've talked to them, they're like really nice, and I love them.
yeah.
Another thing, actually, I remember Knocked Loose when they were maybe this was like 2017 or something. They played this venue called the Palladium. They played upstairs. That was the most violent show. It's absolutely crazy.
Those kids have really come a long way. The last time I saw them, because I've seen them, rise up. But
Yeah.
the last time I saw them in Madison Square Garden with Slipknot, man, that was pretty special.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's a band
They
called
they had the crowd going and the perfect opening band for that show, that's for sure.
yeah.
Direct support.
I don't know if you've heard of Vane FM.
I don't think so.
They have a side project called Fleshwater. I remember when that kind of not exactly when it started because I got into Vane around maybe a few months after Fleshwater started, and then I found out about Fleshwater. But it's crazy because I remember them playing like they would play bars. Obviously, I couldn't go to the shows because like 21
Sure.
plus, but I did see them quite a few times. Now they're playing with Deftones. Like they just did a tour with Deftones, and I was like, holy crap. And
Dude,
it's
it just
crazy
goes
to
to show
see.
you if you put in the time, you put in the effort, and you don't act like a dick to people,
Exactly.
and just friend everyone and network hard, good things will happen to you. Like
Definitely.
I'm talking to you uh, 30 years after I started in this business. And the reason for that is because I follow that mantra, like
Yeah,
be kind to people, always work hard at your craft, always try to improve. Like, the beginning versions of myself vocally, like I don't sound anything like that. I've evolved over the years, and because I always strive to be better, more professional, um, and all of that. So when you have that kind of attitude, you're gonna be all right, and the scene's gonna take care of you, and just pay it back, and pay it forward. That's how you do it.
definitely.
So like you just keep the grind going, and people will take notice, and good things will happen for sure. And
Yeah,
Knock Loose is a prime example of that.
definitely. Yeah. They're great too.
Oh yeah,
After,
they're fun to watch.
were you at I think when they toured with Speed?
I did not catch that tour. The time before, so it'd been a couple years since I'd seen them because of COVID and all that.
Yeah.
But like the time before the Slipknot show that I saw, they had played over here in New York at a place called Webster Hall,
Oh, I know
and
Webster
they
Hall.
had packed that out. And it was a great show. And then it kind of exploded. They were already big, but then they really exploded after that. So it was cool to see that, from a club all the way to an arena. That was a cool thing to kind of be part of and watch.
Definitely, yeah. Speaking on a Slipknot, the second album, all those horror vibes.
Yeah.
I love like that album because of all that, and I love how like eerie it is. And I love when people incorporate horror into music.
Iowa was a sick
Yeah,
record. I'm always gonna be partial to the first record as my favorite, but man, what a great sequel to a first album.
definitely.
Iowa was hard as hell. A little more polished, but in a good way. It wasn't like bad, you
Yeah.
know. And that's why I like the first record more because it was so raw. You could tell they were still trying to like perfect their craft. And I don't know, there's just something that speaks to me about that record. It's just so raw. And to see them play the 25th anniversary of it was pretty damn cool.
I was going insane at that show with my cousin, and holy crap, that was amazing to see.
I went with my son Jason to see that and my best friend. So we just all had fun just marking out to that shit because that shit was
Definitely.
fucking brutal. It was awesome.
Definitely. And it's crazy how Corey, he blew his vocal cords after Iowa, but it's crazy how he still sounds really good.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, it sounded like the album.
He's one of the best to ever do it. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Corey, and I got to meet him a couple times, and he was always very cool. And it's weird because so Knights of the Black, we contributed to a metal and horror documentary
Oh, what?
called The History of Horror and Metal,
That's
and
cool.
Corey's in that, Kirk Hammett, so many metal people and horror people, just kind of talking about the relationship between horror and metal. And so, my buddy Mike Schiff directed that film, and he and I went to high school, so he kind of asked us to soundtrack the score there, and we did that. And so I'm forever tied to Corey and all these guys who were in that documentary. And I brought it up to him one time, and he was just like super stoked for us.
Yeah.
And he's just really cool. I can never say a bad thing about him and my interactions with him. And he has a gigantic voice, and he's not really that tall.
Yeah.
Like he's not tall at all. And but this guy has such a force behind his vocals, and I have a ton of respect for him.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, speaking on horror movies again, I kind of wanted to ask this before. It's
Sure.
kind of a like hard question, mainly because you wouldn't want to live in any, but if you had to live in a world of a horror movie, which one would it be and how would you survive?
Hmm, interesting. So again, I'm probably gonna go back to the slashers. Although you know what, let's change it up. I'm gonna go with I'd probably be in the Conjuring universe
Ooh,
because I'm a big fan of the paranormal stuff.
yeah.
And you know, there's this unknown. Are spirits out there? Are demonic presences out there? You know, it's never been proven one way or the other. But like, if there were, I'd definitely be up to try to fucking, you know, control these things and like the Warrens did
Yeah.
and fight up against them, you know what I'm saying? Like I would test my humanity against this unknown presence and try to fight the good fight, I guess, you know. So I
Yeah.
would definitely put myself in that world and you know, hope for the best. Hope not to get possessed myself, you know.
Yeah. I want to say Evil Dead, but that's probably a horrible
Sure.
idea. I mean, Evil Dead's probably by far my favorite horror franchise. I grew up on it. I met Ash when I was
Yeah, me
little,
too.
Bruce Campbell. He's
He's
a
so
great
cool.
guy. Yeah, he was super
He's
nice and I
funny as
love him.
hell.
He is. He's really funny. Have you
Yeah.
seen him at the panels like where we'll be
Yep,
talking?
I have. I have. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
He
so
takes so
funny.
he like takes over the room and you know, you don't even need like a host, you know, like
Exactly.
he just takes it over. Like him and Malcolm McDowell, who did A Clockwork Orange,
Oh,
and he played Dr. Loomis in the Rob Zombie um, films, Halloween films. That guy also knows how to take over a room. He fucking rules.
yeah. I actually don't know where it is, but I have Clockwork Orange soundtrack on CD, and
Yeah,
it's signed by Michael McDowell.
yeah. I've got some stuff signed by him too. He's
Yeah, he's
awesome,
awesome.
you know. And he says, you know, if you ask me a stupid question, I'm going to tell you to go fuck yourself. And he did. You know, I saw him tell a few people to go fuck themselves. Pretty
Yeah,
cool.
definitely. Did you ever expect Irate's legacy to last this long? Because I bet you get so many DMs about Irate. Like,
I do. So many years after we've broken up, and it's really humbling. No, I did not expect that. Um, and it's funny you bring that up because Irate just got put into the Bronx Historical Society Museum.
I saw that.
Um,
Yeah,
you know, and I just went there. I just took my mother to see our exhibit, and my boys, and it's just we're so proud, man. Like who would have thought when I was, you know, what, 18, 19 years old, I never in a million years thought that we'd make it, you know, that people will resonate with it so much that it continues to go from generation to generation. And kids young like yourself sending me
definitely.
DMs just like saying, you know, your music is incredible, or you influenced me, or you know, you got me through a bad time. You know, I've had people write me from prison, telling me how Irate's music has helped them during a terrible time in their lives, like all kinds of things, man. And no, I never would have thought that in a million years, but it's so beautiful and humbling because we really worked hard at our craft. We really took what we did seriously. We tried to friend everyone and just be kind to people. And, you know, it's kind of the universe giving it back to us,
Yeah,
that we're so fortunate to even still be a topic of conversation.
definitely. Yeah.
Never mind like all the offers I still get for shows and you know just the compliments that I get from the old generation and the new.
Yeah, you guys are a big inspiration on a lot of the bands over here, like the metal and hardcore kind of mixed ones.
That's sick, man.
And
Yeah,
yeah, I hear
yeah.
like so much inspiration and all that music, and it's crazy because a lot of like these bands, like a lot of these people, like never really think that their music would get that far, but then it does, and it's really awesome to see, especially when they're awesome people. Like what I like to live by, especially in the scene, is you want to be nice to everyone and get
Yeah.
back because then people want to, once you're in a band, book you for shows. They'll want to collaborate with you. And also you get to make more friends, which I like a lot. So,
I am fortunate to be friends with so many legends,
hmm.
and call them brothers, and have played with so many, and them considering us the same. That's extremely humbling. Everyone from Hatebreed to Candiria to on and on. But yeah, very humbling, and I'm so grateful for it. We were all young kids once, just trying to make it, and some bands that I know really made it really far, and I'm so happy for them, and and happy for us that people recognize all the good efforts we made and resonated with our music and talk about it positively.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask you if you had any crazy stories from like being on the road or on stage. I heard something about Castle Heights.
Well, Castle Heights was a great era in our lives. Castle Heights is where we got our musical journey started. Our very first show was there, at in 1996, September of 1996. And I want to take this time to give a huge shout out to Kevin Scandato, who was the promoter of Castle Heights. He was also the first manager of Irate, and he recently passed away,
Oh,
and that was a huge loss for us, and many people in the music scene who Kevin gave a break to, being promoting at Castle Heights, and he will never be forgotten. He's one of the greatest guys I'll ever know in my life. So, Kevin, if you're out there somewhere, man, I love you, brother, and I'll never forget you. And I thank you for all the opportunities that we got as a result of your belief in our band. He used to show trade with us, so like we started playing in the road. He would trade with other bands in different states, have them come to New York, and then have us go to their states.
oh yeah.
And that's how we kind of like started the journey and started getting known in other areas. So we owe Kevin Scandato a lot. Love to his brothers Mark and Shutdown, and Mike and Human, and Joe Scandato as well. I'm sorry, John Scandato, um, and the rest of the Scandato clan. But very important individual in our lives. Now, as far as stories, you know, we did all the things bands do, man. We fucked with each other. We played, pranks on each other. Like everything that you would expect a metal band to do. We did
Yeah.
it. You know what I'm saying? So like, I have many stories, but like, it was never like we just wanted to be like our heroes, and all our heroes would play pranks on each other and do stupid shit, and graphic sometimes just playful, but we'd always fuck with each other, man. And
Yeah.
so I'll say that one time we went to Puerto Rico with Sworn Enemy and Billy Club Sandwich, and everybody gets hurt, and no one was safe.
Damn.
Like that
Damn.
was a free for all where everyone was fucking with each other,
God
busting into
damn.
bathrooms, like busting in on dudes, jerking off and shit like that, with the cameras and all that, like
That's crazy.
crazy shit, man. Like
Yeah.
we definitely we definitely did all kinds of hijinks and shit that we'll never forget. Um, but that was a specifically crazy trip because the four of those bands came up together, and we all started out at Castle Heights and branched out into the world, and we're like brother bands. So that was the first and only real time that, aside from Castle Heights and New York area, that the four of us got to go somewhere else. Like, like I'm not going to say abroad because Puerto Rico is part of the United States, but kind of abroad. It was an island, and we all flew there and had the time of our lives, man.
I mean, yeah, personally, I mean, I'd kind of count it as abroad because it's, really far and it's more out of like the continent, really. So,
Caribbean island, yeah.
yeah. Uh,
But yeah, like that was a really special trip, and since that happened in 2004, and some of those guys are no longer with us. Like Paulie Nonek from Sworn Enemy, he passed away. We had our friend Greg, who wasn't in EGH at the time, but later on was in EGH, also pass away. So like, you remember those times fondly because those are special people that, took the same journey you did and were fun to be around and were contagious to be around because of their energy and their positive attitudes. So like we miss some of those guys. And Sworn Enemy, Billy Club, EGH, we're all still friends. We all get together when we can. We celebrate family things together and all kinds of milestones. So it's just it's really cool that we're still doing that.
Definitely, yeah. I actually had one last question for you.
Okay.
Since you're a born and bred New Yorker, I have to ask a classic New York question.
Sure.
What's your go-to food after a long night of rehearsing or playing a show? Like, do you have a spot or just a certain type of food or really anything?
Well, sadly, a lot of the spots that I grew up going to are no longer.
Oh,
They're gone. New York City is always building new things and taking out old and building new. Like all the clubs we used to play with back then, they're all gone. So like I'm gonna say that I'm a big after shows, especially. I love diners or pizza,
definitely.
like one or two, one of the two, and pizza is wonderful in New York because you can find spots open really late at night. Same thing with diners. Although after COVID, like a lot of diners don't do the 24-hour thing anymore, which kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But you still find them. And I'm a big yeah, I love, my favorite foods are like Spanish food, like the rice and beans and the steaks and the chicken and all that stuff.
Yeah.
As far as like regular everyday food, I'm gonna go with pizza after shows or diners, one of the two.
Have you ever been to a Amore Pizza?
Amore?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
They have
It
some,
sounds familiar. Like, where
yeah.
is it? In Brooklyn?
I think it's like kind of Chinatown area. I may be wrong,
Hmm.
but
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
every time I go to New York, I always have to get pizza there. It's so good.
There
Yeah.
was a place in the Bronx called Nikki's Pizza, and it was by a place that we used to play called the Blackthorn. Now, coincidentally, it's only a few blocks down from where the Bronx Historical Society Museum is.
Oh,
But that is no longer. But when we used to play shows or hang out at that bar club, first thing we do is go to Nikki's, man, and I'd get the slices were enormous. They were so
geez,
big,
yeah.
and I'd get like a bacon slice, the most unhealthiest shit ever, and I would devour that thing, man,
Yeah.
and sodas or whatever. Um, and that was always fun. So yeah, like pizza's a big one for me, or diners.
I love pizza. I just learned how to make pizza and oh, I love homemade pizza now.
Oh hell yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'd
yeah,
like
me.
to I'd like to thank you for taking your time and being here. Is there anything you'd like to say or like shout out anyone before we end it off?
Just shout out to the fans, who constantly are in communication with me and the guys in Irate or Judas Syndrome or Knights of the Black. I love you all and I thank you and I'm so humbled by you that you continue to be excited with the work that I do in this music scene and all the things I release with the bands that I'm in. And shout out to all my bandmates in Irate, Knights of the Black, and Judas Syndrome. I love you guys so much. I thank you for your hard work, your passion, your dedication, your musicianship, and your hard work, man, because this is not easy to do. If it were, everybody would be doing it, right? But yeah, shout out to the fans. Stay tuned for Hymns of the Blasphemous, which will be the first Knights of the Black official EP. There will be 5 songs on that, and then a year after that, part 2 of Hymns of the Blasphemous. We're cutting into two parts, and we're excited to get part one out. Stay tuned for the single Vigilante coming to your airwaves pretty soon. It's going to be on liquid metal and all that stuff. So we're excited to get that out.
Ooh.
And yeah, we look forward to that journey. And shout out to my son, who is my bandmate, Jay Vibes. He's a monster. I love him to death. Shout out to Nando Redrum. Shout out to War Child Tommy T. And, everyone that ever gave a shit about our music and, still listens to today.
Yeah. Thank you a lot for doing this.
You're welcome, Dom. Have a great day and good luck with Into the Pit. And I look forward to seeing many more interviews with many more people. So good luck to you. Stay grinding and stay positive, my friend.